Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's Folk Tales and Fables. Not sure if we should include myths in all of this as well, because a lot of what we read, sometimes, especially when it comes to the Greek and Roman stuff, tend to be more on the lines of mythology. I do need to apologise for your video not being out sooner today. I forgot to mention on Monday that I was seeing the dentist again on Tuesday, which was obviously yesterday. And he had to do some work. So my face is still a bit swollen. As you can see, I was pretty swollen last night, and it's literally taken all day to get my mouth down so I could speak to you. So please forgive the lateness of the video, but I wanted to get something out to you today. And yes, I could have pre-filmed it, you're quite right, but I ran out of time. And you know me for yakking, and sometimes I can yak for hours and then I don't know where the time has gone. And then by the time I get round to doing it, I'm so tired that I can't do it. So I think you'll probably be telling me to get some kind of organisation sorted out. Yeah, you'd be right. Okay, so on to today's video. One of our haveners, Will, hi Will, has asked if we could look into the goddess Aphrodite. And I said yes, that would not be a problem. Like I say, with everything that you guys ask of me, I will do. I know also that our Candace, hi Candace, and Angie, hi Angie, also love anything to do with mythology. And if I've forgotten any of you who also love mythology, please forgive me. Hello everyone who loves mythology. Let's just hope I've covered myself there. Please send all hate mail to www.itrynotohateheader.com. Thank you very much. Right, so on to the meat of today's story. Will asked me, would I please talk about the goddess Aphrodite? Now, I want to start off by saying that I started learning about the gods and goddesses when I was at school. And that would be when I would be about 9 or 10. So could we please keep in mind this is like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this, nearly 50 years ago. God, it is a long time. Doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself? Not. But anyway, it was a very long time ago, almost half a century. I can't believe I'm actually saying that. Can you tell I don't want to grow old gracefully? So, it was a very long time ago. And I learned the difference between the Roman and the Greek gods. And I learned that in Greek, it's Aphrodite is the goddess of love, whereas in Roman, it's Venus. So today, obviously, we're talking about the Greek. And apparently, from what I can remember, she was born from the sea foam. But what I've done is, because I can't remember everything, I decided instead of looking up for a bio of Aphrodite, I thought, let's look for some stories about her and see where we go from there. Now, like I say, the little bits that I can remember before I get into the stories is that she was born of the foam in the sea. She was married to Hephaestus, who was a blacksmith, became a god. His Roman version is, of course, Vulcan, live long and prosper. There's me showing my Trekkie side. I'm sure she was an integral part. She had something to do with Troy. I think she did. Or I know there was some kind of competition where someone, I don't know if it was Perseus, whether it was Achilles, or someone else, had to choose which was the most beautiful goddess. One of them, apparently, who put up was Athena. One was Aphrodite. And I'm not sure if the other one was Hera. I can't remember. But if there's one person who I do know will put me right, it's our Angie. Because she is... I don't think there's anything about mythology that she doesn't know when it comes to Greek and Roman mythology. I think Angie is the best one. Do you know, it would be lovely, wouldn't it? Because Angie and I are both in the UK. And before the pandemic struck, we were actually planning on meeting up. Which I would have thought was wonderful. And what I would like to do is once we can travel again, and once Angie is able to, because she suffers from chronic pain like I do, if she's able to come up to visit her relatives in Yorkshire, if she could pop up to my neck of the woods for an hour or two, have a cup of tea with me, have a hug, talk about makeup. We could talk about makeup for her channel, and then she could come here into the Haven and we could talk about mythology. So that would be a lovely collab to do, wouldn't it? Because I've never done a collab with anyone before, and that's a collab I would like to do. I think that would be good. Don't you? So anyway, there I am, off track. Now I've looked at the time. Try to remember to look at the time. So what I've done is I've pulled up some stories from the internet about Aphrodite. So with your blessing, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to start reading them to you. Excuse me, I'm savaging. Do you know what it is? It's just this heat is so weird. 1 minute it's sticky and it's humid and really warm. Then we've had some really torrential downpours of rain. Now it's got this kind of chill in the air, but it still makes me feel thirsty, which is really weird. Unless, of course, it's just me, which is then it's just downright weird. And you know I'm weird. So, nothing new there. Okay. So, she was the goddess of love and beauty. We know that. She emerged from the foam and the waves of the sea. Her mysterious birth gives her an air of mystery that she carries with her in her encounters with all people. She enchants all those who come in contact with her, and humans and gods alike all fall for her charms. There are some stories about her that stand out more than others. Who was Aphrodite? What role did she play in Greek mythology? So, here's the story that explains her birth. Apparently, one story, she was formed in the sea after Cronus castrated Uranus. Now, I know you could say that in different ways, but I'm not going to, because I know I would giggle, and you lot would giggle, so, or not all of you would giggle, because you're a lot more grown up than me, but if I was to say the second name in a different way, then everybody would giggle, and I know I would, and I'm not going to lower the tone. Another story says that Zeus, king of the gods, and his lover Dione were her parents. No matter how she was born, all stories do agree that she was born both sensual and beautiful, and she enchanted everyone. I actually never heard anybody say a bad word about Aphrodite. Honestly, I never did. You'd think I knew her. Now, apparently, there's also stories about what she looked like. She was always depicted as a beautiful young woman. She's got long hair and a sort of a dress that enhances her feminine shape. She had curves. You could almost say I was not Aphrodite in any way at all. She is looked at as being the most beautiful woman in the world. and the standard to which all women compare themselves. Her ultimate symbol is her girdle, where it is said much of our feminine power came from. And our other symbols include the golden apple, roses, dolphins, a mirror, and a swan. Now, I know there's a story linked with a golden apple. Don't know about dolphins. And I'm sure I heard about one girl who had been bewitched into being a swan after falling in love with Zeus. But I thought it was an act by Hera in revenge. But that might be something we might need to go into another time. Oh, here's the story of the golden apple. Right. Here's the one where I was telling you about which one was the most beautiful. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. I was right, thank you, I was right. We're in competition wondering which of them was the most beautiful. So they are, it's Paris. That's who it is. Paris, young Greek boy, he chose Aphrodite as the most desirable. Each of the goddess promised Paris something if they chose her as the most beautiful. But because Aphrodite made a promise to Paris to make her his wife, this gave her a competitive advantage over the other goddesses, which made her the victor. Aphrodite's reward was the golden apple, a symbol of her beauty. When Paris took Helen as his wife, it wound up causing the Trojan War. So, that's the thing. And Helen was originally married to Menelaus, I believe. And Paris kidnapped Helen. And he took her away to Troy. And, oh, was she originally Helen of Troy? And he took her somewhere else. Well, anyway, that's where you get the saying, you've got a face that launched 1,000 ships. Because Menelaus launched 1,000 ships, or it was 1,000 ships that were launched in battle over getting Helen back. I think Menelaus desperately wanted her back, but now I can't remember whether he got her back or not. So, anyway, but we need to look into the Trojan War, I think. Don't you? If any of you want me to talk about the Trojan War, I will. Now, Aphrodite did get married, and I was right. Her husband is Hephaestus, a god who, despite his strong profession as a blacksmith, is painted as being too meek to control her. In fact, once Zeus realised Aphrodite's nature, he knew she needed to have a husband who would tolerate her wild and sensual ways. He chose Hephaestus because he knew it would help prevent too many people from fighting over her. And though she had a husband, she had a lot of lovers. Oh, dear me, one of her lovers was Ares, the god of war. Hermes, who was the god of delivering parcels, not in a very good way. Poseidon, who is king of the sea, god of the sea. Adonis, who, now wasn't he like a sort of an opposite of Cupid, god of love, that sort of thing. And Dionysus, now he was the god of wine, and that's it, because in Roman mythology it was Bacchus, I believe, was the god of wine. Dionysus was the god of wine and partying. So you imagine I'd be quite fond of him. She also had several children. Well, she's bound to, isn't she? If she's going to get out with that. Most with different paternity. She's a bit of a girl, our Aphrodite. Among those, she gave birth to Eros, whose Roman equivalent... Oh, it's Eros, is the Roman equivalent of Cupid. Sorry, beg your pardon. We understand Cupid as shooting an arrow, which compels us to love whoever we see. And as you can see, Aphrodite is a great symbol of love and beauty. The ancient Greeks were fond of depicting her as a beautiful young maiden. She was known for being a sensual goddess who had many lovers. Though she was hard to control, she did have an important place in ancient mythology. So that was that story. I'm going to try and see if I could find the other story about Aphrodite. Oh, yes, that's something else. I bet you didn't know that she was the inspiration for, you know, that the Venus de Milo statue? You know, the one that's got the woman with her arms hacked off? Well, that's where that came from. Well, Aphrodite, she lived on Mount Olympus. We know that she was married to Hephaestus, born from the foam, and that's why the artist Botticelli painted her as coming from the sea. Right. She was involved in the story of the Golden Fleece. So here's something else I need to tell you about. Have any of you ever watched Jason and the Argonauts? Do you remember that movie? I think might have been the 60s or the 70s. Might have been the 70s actually, because I do remember it. Watched it a few times. Well, Jason and the Argonauts is all about going after the Golden Fleece, right? Well, she involved herself in that story. And when Jason asked permission from the king of Colchis to remove the Golden Fleece from the grove in which it hung, the king was clearly unwilling. So the goddess Hera, who had sponsored Jason's quest, asked Aphrodite to intervene. The love goddess made the king's daughter Medea fall in love with Jason, and Medea proved instrumental in Jason's success. Aphrodite was also said to have caused the Trojan War. Right, here we are going to get all the things that I've got wrong. This came about in the following fashion. When the hero Peleus was married to the sea nymph Thetis, all the gods were invited to the ceremony, all but one. The slighted goddess happened to be a specialist in sowing discord, so she maliciously deposited a golden apple on the banquet table. The fruit was described with the legend "for the fairest." Immediately all the goddesses began to argue about whose beauty entitled her to be the rightful possessor of this prize. So this is the one where they asked the most handsome mortal in the world, who was Paris, who said, "Oh, it's Aphrodite because I want her to be my wife." But Aphrodite's yeah, all right. And that was when she gave him that golden apple. So now the bribes were, Hera said she would make him rule the world if he chose her. Athena said she would always make him victorious in battle. And Aphrodite said she guaranteed him love with the most beautiful woman in the world. So that's the difference in the stories, isn't it? Because in one story it said she promised to marry him. In this story it's like, I will make sure that you can marry the most beautiful woman in the world. And that at the time was Helen, who was married to the king of Sparta. And it was Aphrodite who Paris gave the golden apple to Aphrodite. She ended up giving him the power to elope with Helen, who became notorious as Helen of Troy. Helen's husband and his brother raised a Greek army to retrieve his wife, and this was the start of the Trojan War. And another story about Aphrodite is Another occasion in which the goddess of love came to the aid of a mortal hero also happened to involve golden apples. When the mighty heroine Atalanta agreed to wed whatever suitor managed to best her in a foot race, so basically, if you can beat me at running, I'm yours. Aphrodite favoured one of the contestants with a peck of golden fruit. By strewing these enchanted apples on the racecourse, the young lad caused Atalanta to become distracted, and she lost the race. So she ended up, this Atalanta ended up marrying someone who is nameless. So, unless I find something else. But, do you know what? I always love the story about the Trojan War. The way that people were sort of like, well, they were cheated in a way and deceived, thinking, oh, we're getting this gift of this great big wooden horse, which also stems the old saying, beware of Greeks bearing gifts. But, of course, you can't say that sort of thing these days because it's not politically correct. And every Greek person I've ever met who has given me a gift has been the most wonderful person. I love the Greek people, and if given a chance, if I had enough money, apart from doing what I could for the homeless, I'd retire to Greece. I would, because I've been to Greece a couple of times, and it's absolutely fantastic there. I love the Greek people. They are some of the nicest, kindest people in the world. And I just love them. So, I don't think, that's not a very nice saying, but that's one of the things that they used to come out with. Before, but they don't say it anymore, thank goodness. But of course, whenever I think about the Trojan horse these days, I tend to sort of think about Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and them trying to stuff a rabbit, this giant rabbit, to get into Arthur's Camelot. Yeah, it just goes to show I'm a Monty Python fan as well. Right, so I'm looking at the time, and I don't think, apart from, I don't know if you know any further stories about Aphrodite. I don't know if there's, let's see. I'm just having a quick look now. Alright. Okay. The story of Aphrodite and Adonis. A myth about beauty and love. It's one of the most popular Greek myths. It's associated with love and eros, and not even gods and deities could escape the powerful arrows of the god Eros, and they would fall in love with mortals, with catastrophic results. Aphrodite and Adonis is a classic myth about lust and rejection, enhanced with several spicy details about the goddess of love and lust and the beautiful mortal Adonis. Adonis is the personification of masculine beauty, to which he owed to his fate, according to the Greek myths. There are actually two known myths about Adonis and Aphrodite. The first myth refers to Adonis's early years, and the second to his death and Aphrodite's role in it. So let's find out what happened. The first myth of Aphrodite and Adonis involves his parents, and is a story about beauty, love, and jealousy. Adonis's mother was the beautiful Myrrha or Smyrna, and his father, King Cinyras of Cyprus, who was actually her father. Oh my God. Right, he was actually the father of Smyrna. Oh dear. The strange parentage of Adonis came about because the goddess Aphrodite was jealous of Smyrna's beauty and caused the girl to unite with her own father. And when her father found out that he'd been tricked, he chased his daughter with a sword, intending to kill both her and her unborn child. Aphrodite, who repented of her deed, quickly turned the girl into a myrrh tree. Oh dear. Aphrodite hid the newborn child Adonis in a chest, which she gave charge to Persephone, queen of the netherworld. But when Persephone opened the chest, she was beheld by the beauty of the baby, so she refused to give him back to Aphrodite, although the goddess of love went down herself to the underworld to ransom the baby Adonis from the power of the dead. The dispute between the two goddesses of love and death was settled by Zeus, who decreed that Adonis should abide with Persephone in the underworld for one part of the year and with Aphrodite in the upper world for the other part. When he stayed in the underworld, it was winter, and when he returned, earth blossomed into spring and summer. In this form of the myth, the contest between Aphrodite and Persephone for the possession of Adonis clearly reflects the struggle between love and death. This is a common subject in Greek mythology, since we see it in the myth of Persephone and Hades. The decision of Zeus that Adonis is to spend one part of the year underground and another part above ground is merely a Greek myth about the notion of the annual disappearance and reappearance, which refers to spring and winter. Now, there's a different version. In some versions of the myth of Aphrodite and Adonis, where Ares, the god of war, and Aphrodite's lover, hears that Aphrodite loves the youth Adonis, he got really jealous and decided to take revenge. Aphrodite was chasing Adonis to mate with him, but Adonis was more interested in hunting. Aphrodite begged Adonis to give up the dangerous sports he enjoyed because she couldn't bear to lose him, knowing that the young man would have a terrible end. Adonis ignored her advice and was killed by hunting a wild boar that was actually really the god Ares. When Adonis died, Aphrodite heard his cries and hastened to his side in a swan-drawn chariot. She cursed the fates and Ares that had ordained his death. With Adonis still in her arms, Aphrodite turned the blood drops that fell from his wounds onto the soil into windflowers, the short-lived anemones, as a memorial to their love. Anemones sprung from the blood of Adonis, and his spirit returned to the underworld. In response to the tearful goddess, Zeus determined that Adonis should stay for just half the year in the underworld. And then there is, I think that's about it really, guys. That's about all I can find out for you for today. So, one thing we've discovered about Aphrodite is she was absolutely beautiful. She was a bit of a wild child. She was a lover, not a fighter. And, you know, she is what she is. You know, what's not to love? You know, she was just free. I think that's how you probably, you know, she was, for a goddess, she was quite human in an awful lot of ways. So, but I don't know, what do you think? Do you think I've got that wrong? Or do you think she was definitely more of a deity? But you see, I tend to think that if you're going to be a deity, goodness me, if you're going to be a deity, you should really be good and an example to those who follow you. So having traits like jealousy and hatred and envy and things like that, they're human emotions. They shouldn't be godlike emotions. But then again, I know in some cases I'm very wrong, and that's just my personal opinion. But we are all free to have our personal opinions here. So if you would like to write your personal opinions in the comments and let me know what you think, I'll be absolutely thrilled. And, and if you like what I've said, please would you sort of gently massage the like button for me, because I'll be thrilled with that. Right, guys, well, I'm definitely over time now, so I'm going to say thank you again for being here, and thank you again for watching and for listening to me with my half-bloated face because of all the dental work I've had done. Please feel sorry for me, although you can put that bit in brackets, the please feel sorry for me bit. And I've got to go back next week for more dental work. It's all down to the radiotherapy I had years ago. I didn't realise radiotherapy had long-lasting effects. But there you go. So, anyway, I love you all. And I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now, guys. Bye-bye.